have with us this evening, highly sought after speaker, author, advisor, board member, mentor to many, and overall marketing wizard, Angie Hammond is in the house. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
How did I go with the intro? Be honest.
That was great, but there was no drum roll.
Oh, I apologize. Hang on.
Better.
I'm not sure if it picked it up or not, but there you go. Angie, thanks very much for joining us. We've got a lot to get through this evening. I'm very, very excited. I'm a big fan of powerful women. I think I wouldn't be with my wife if I wasn't. So I'm excited to get your views on many a thing. But first and foremost, let's jump into 2 truths and a lie. So I'm intrigued by these. So I don't know the answers to these, obviously. So I've completed 2 half Ironman competitions. I've been to 21 countries in my lifetime to date, and COVID destroyed my business. 2 truths and a lie. So, Angie, we spoke a little bit beforehand, and I'm going to guess that 21 countries is a truth. The 2 half Ironman competitions, I'm going to take a stab here and say that's the truth, and say that COVID destroyed my business is actually the lie. How did I go?
Congratulations. You have got 3 out of 3.
Oh, wow.
Intuition, it's incredible. So I guess COVID didn't destroy my business. COVID gave me the opportunity to diversify my business and to become more resilient and to turn things around, which actually I think is something that a lot of us have started to do. And if we haven't started to do that, then perhaps that's looking at the silver lining that COVID has given us, where we've been given the opportunity to apply for small business grants and to educate ourselves. Now, some of the things that I did was I applied for a small business grant, which covered some professional training courses. So I did the certified chair course with the Advisory Board Centre. And I also have, I'm in the middle of doing the Institute of Company Directors course. So for me, I'd like to start more of an advisory portfolio career. And so that gave me the opportunity to do those things. I'm also doing a diploma of sustainable living with the University of Tasmania. And that is purely because I'm genuinely interested in that kind of thing. And with people who are watching this don't know, I'm a marketing person who advises from a more strategic position. Some of the things that I deal with, and I deal specifically in the manufacturing and distribution and industrial kind of areas. So I deal a lot with capabilities. And because I can see capabilities and how to improve capabilities, sustainability plays a big part in that journey. And so doing a course in sustainability will open up more doorways for me, so that when I go and apply for board roles, I can say, okay, I'd like to look after your sustainability and capability and your growth and all of those things. So it just puts me in a different niche. And I think that COVID gave me that opportunity. So I'm quite grateful that I had the time to breathe and to pause and to consider what it was that I wanted to do. Now, I have done the Ironman competitions, and that shows a lot of tenacity and training and commitment. So you're drawing from all of the elements of what makes you tick. And then traveling, I have traveled to 21 different countries around the world, and that's because I'm inherently a backpacker and never really left Australia. So. Yeah, and so I have been all over the world, and take our children around the world. Now my husband and I travel quite a bit. Well, we'd like to travel a little bit more, but obviously the world's shut at the moment. So yeah,
it's on a brief hiatus. Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I undernoted that last one. I thought I'll have a stab here. Quite a little bit to unpack, just even in the 2 truths and a lie, Angie. But talk to me, I guess, first of all, about COVID. So I think everyone's sick of hearing COVID, but it's just not going away in the short term anyway. I find it really intriguing how you were able to, as you put it, take a breath and I guess really make an informed position and really be sure in your next pivot. And it probably lies more into the strategic kind of positioning, or at least a strategic kind of brain that you've got yourself. So I guess first and foremost, were there any nervous moments, in that period, or were you sure about everything, as soon as I guess the shit hit the fan?
Well, I think because of the way that I operate, and I strategically help other people to manage their own businesses and make their own KPIs and reach goals for their own businesses, it was quite simple for me to go, okay, well, here's an opportunity. What can I do with this? What's available in terms of grants? And that's what I do with businesses, is that I align them with grants. What's available in terms of what time have I got available to me to do these things? And so for me, logically, it made an awful lot of sense to go down the education path, because I had planned that a number of years ago. It's always just been a little bit unobtainable because there was a large chunk of cost associated with it. And also I probably wasn't quite ready to jump into that kind of education. And then it turned into the pause where it gave me the space to be ready, which was great. So I think it's just having that strategic mind that says, okay, what do I want to do? How am I going to get there? What tasks do I need to action to get to the point where these things then turn into reality? Because my way of thinking is that you are the only person that can fulfill your own dreams. No one else can fulfill your own dreams for you. So if you're going to sit there and make your dream, just sit there and dream and not actually put it into writing and not turn it into a set of goals, then you're only ever going to be a dreamer. But if you would like to turn those thoughts into things, as they say, then you've got to do something about it. You've got to take the bull by the horns and take some risks.
I love that. And I guess, has that always come instinctively for you, or is it through numerous courses, or how did you come to be?
I'm a bull in a china shop. I think I always have. So, I pretty much always run to the sound of my own drum, for sure. So yeah,
love that. Speaking of running, what a segue, Angie, you're on fire. Let's get into the 2 half Iron Iron Man, or Iron person, Iron women. What does that look like? Like, did you have to train for it? Like,
everyone has to train if you want.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yes, you can't just, because it's, I don't know, the distances. Let's go through that first. So we have a 1.9 kilometer swim.
Wow.
Then a 90 kilometer bike ride, and then a half Ironman, a half marathon. Sorry. So yeah. So I mean, it's all completely achievable. It's about 6 hours worth of exercise. So you're out for the day, and, and you're having a crack. You're just getting on with it, really. So yeah. But it takes mental power to kind of go, no, this doesn't hurt. No, I can get through this. And yeah, okay, well, I'm going to walk through the aid station here and have some red frogs, and whatever it gets you through, it's all good. So yeah. But that's fun. So I did Bustleton in Western Australia, which was really, really great. It's my first one that I did there. And then I've done Taupo over in New Zealand, and that was lovely to go over there. So,
yeah, nice. Yeah. And just on your 21 countries, you got any favorites? What's your top 3?
Well, Australia, because I chose to live here. I guess that would be number 1. Oh.
There it is.
Yeah, I've got my little list here. Gosh, Cambodia was a learning curve. That was a big eye opener into the third world, and kind of how different it is, and how grateful I was to live the life that I lead. I suppose that was very educational. I've always gone to France as a child, so that there's lots of good memories of going to the south of France with mum and dad. So
nice.
That's always lovely to do. China was a bit, there you go. Didn't much of China, to be honest, but I actually learned a lot of lessons in China about being grateful, and that there are so many people with so little in China, and it really brings home the fact that I had so much. And so it made me extremely grateful for who I am and the life that I got to lead as, you know, as a young person. So yeah, that was kind of exciting.
Love that. I've only been to France once, but we were in and around the southern end, southwest. My geography is terrible, Angie. I'm not going to pretend. But it was Normandy and somewhere else, which was lovely. I learnt one phrase in France, or French, one French phrase. Let's see if I can remember it. I'm not going to be able to actually. Let's move on. Anyway, it was kind of 4 pain au chocolats at the cafe every morning. There you go.
Chocolat, s'il vous plaît.
There you go. Thank you very much. It's refreshed my mind. But look, should we unpack your book?
Oh, let's do that. Yes.
Amen. So you've just written a book. Tell us all about it.
Right. I'm just ducking down under the bench. This is the book. So this is a book called Unpacking. Now, I spend my life unpacking people's businesses and looking at how our values intrinsically are intertwined with our company values and our vision and our purpose and our why and all those things, and how that makes us better businesses. But there was absolutely no way that I could genuinely say that I could help you unpack you and unpack your business, unless I'd done it to myself. So this book is me unpacking me. This is all my life lessons from the age of a very small child all the way up to around the age of 40. And it talks about the things that I've learned from the lessons and the experiences that I've had. And it also talks about the mistakes that I have made and how I'm able to make sense of those in my own head. And what I've found is that a lot of people have resonated with this book, and they've gone on the Me Too bandwagon where they go, God, I thought that was just me. You know, I thought it was only me that felt that way. You know, God, I always felt so alone. And yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's really nice. And I've had such a lot of lovely letters and emails from people. And people have come up to me at events and they've gone, I've read your book and God, it made such a lot of sense to me and thank you for writing it. And that's beautiful. I think that's the reason that I wrote the book anyway. So the book Unpacking is about me, but I'm doing Unpacking Business as a mentoring experience for customers in that kind of industrial manufacturing space who want to scale up, but they kind of have to unpack their business and their people in order to kind of make sense of where they want to go and why they want to go there. And financially, are they capable of going there? You know, skill-wise, are they capable of going there? So it's a really long and drawn-out procedure to actually understand all of those elements, but then you put it together and you've got a roadmap. So Unpacking Me was the first part. And now it's all about unpacking businesses.
That's incredible. So do you see that there's, well, I won't assume, are there consistencies that you tend to see in your role and your interactions with the business world between, you know, business owners and I guess their own personal journey? Like if they're not, I guess, tying into, you know, whether it be self-education or self-growth, does there seem to be a ceiling that someone hits if they're not willing to work on themselves as well?
I think there's always a ceiling if you're not willing to work on yourself. I think if you can change your perspective, then you can change your outcome. But yeah, I think there will always be a ceiling if you aren't willing to do the work, then there's a full stop. Yeah. But if you're willing to do the work, then of course there are doorways all over the place, but you've got to be willing to look for it. But there are always people that you come across who are wanting so much to grow and they want their business to change, but often they're stuck in a rut because they're in an operational position. And they're very, very good at being operational. And that's great. They know how to run their businesses. But jumping outside and looking at the ability to grow your business is hard because they don't have time. So if they wanted to make more money on a specific type of product or diversify product ranges or into different industries, they genuinely don't have the time to think about how they're going to do it, what they need to do it, what standards they need to meet, if they need any new plant and equipment, and how am I going to afford that new asset?
Mm-hmm.
Am my books right? Is it a big risk? And then as soon as that word risk comes in, all of the cards come tumbling down, and they go back to, it's too hard. It's actually not too hard. It just needs to be unpacked. It needs to be put into a certain order, and there's a process to working out whether it's viable or not, or feasible, whether you can get capital from other people and investors, or whether you can actually float your business and offer shares out to the market. So there are so many different ways of looking at growing a business. And there are ceilings, but it depends on how you look at the ceiling.
Love that. You mentioned that you find a lot of business owners are great operators, obviously working in their business. Do people rely on you? Is that the role that someone would bring you in for, to perhaps, partner with them in a way to provide the vision and to provide some sort of, roadmap to a degree, but to help them see the opportunities?
Absolutely. That's pretty much what I do. Is I'll go in and I'll do what I call a discovery session, which literally unpacks them. We use those and we use my process. So we go through the whole day session of working out where the baseline is. And then we kind of go, okay, well, what is it that we want to do? What's our percentage increase? How many sales does that need to increase by? What does that look like in terms of capability of selling it? What are we going out to a new market? What's our target look like? And how will we speak to them? And then we have a really good look at the language that they're currently using. And often businesses that have been in business for a long time talk about themselves instead of about the problems that they solve. If I could give anyone any advice, is to go back and look at your marketing and talk about the problems that you solve, opposed to we've been in business for 70 years, or we've been in business for 45 years, or look at us, we're fantastic and we belong to all these associations. I actually think that information is extremely important, but it does not need to be the headline on your website where you have 9 seconds to impress somebody for them to identify whether you are the solution to the problem that they've come to your website with. So people are often trying to find you through the internet, and they'll come across you, or they'll come across your marketing. And if all you're doing is talking about you, they lose interest pretty quickly. And so it's about having a look at what it is that you actually are solving, and then reframing the message that goes out to market.
Do you see any consistencies as far as problems, friction points, issues that, whether it be just in manufacturing, that obviously you do a lot of great work with? Do you see any consistencies in that way, or talk to me a little bit about that? Because I'm curious as to whether manufacturing is different to some of the other industries that I'm more familiar with.
Well, I think, hospitality and retail have their own set of problems because they're dealing directly with consumers. And so they have that very front end facing problem. Whereas business to business, they will have more of I need to get through the gatekeeper to try and impress the person that I need to talk to try and find out first, number one, who is it that I need to talk to? I'd like to sell my blue widgets to this company, and this particular purchasing officer, I know that he holds the purse strings to buying blue widgets. Right, great. So but getting through that gatekeeper is the problem, obviously, in that B2B space. And so it turns into a completely different scenario. So it's not about cold calling. No one likes cold calling, and it doesn't work anyway. So networking and relationship building is the way to go in Australia. But often what we find is that people are frightened of that. They don't want to go and introduce themselves to people. They don't want to go and be friendly in a space where they don't know anybody. And so that then turns into understanding a skills gap and potentially sending them off to people who I know who do sales training, or maybe doing some other kind of confidence courses, or actually going with them, holding their hand and introducing them to people, and actually show them how to have a conversation where you can go into a networking meeting and you can quite easily float between everybody without getting stuck in a corner talking to somebody about their blue widgets because you want to talk to someone over in the other corner about your blue widgets. There's lots of constraints, but from a B2B perspective, the problems are quite different to the talking to an end consumer, because you're talking about creating desire with an end consumer. But when you're talking to a B2B person, they're trying to solve a problem that they've been assigned to do because it's part of their project. It's part of their, that's what they're being paid for.
So is this more a case of positioning, almost branding, as opposed to direct to consumer, which is a lot more direct sales, a lot more, conversion based stuff? So are you talking about positioning, whether it be the person, individual that might be the face of, the business, or the business itself?
It depends on how big the business is. You know, if you're talking B2B and you want to talk to a mining company, you are not going to be talking to the owner. He's the wrong person anyway. But because that's the game I'll play is talk to mining companies and quarries and that kind of thing. So it's a different game. But if you're talking to the hospitality and retail space, then that's about trying to attract the person to come into your store or come into your online store and buy your thing that you're trying to sell to them there and then for a price that they think is reasonable and fair. Whereas you're putting quotes and proposals together in a B2B space. And then you've got that long game. You play a long game opposed to a really short game in retail and hospitality.
Is there a way that, if we're talking about mining in particular, obviously a lot of tendering for projects or whatever that might look like, is there a consistent strategy that is almost like a blueprint for what someone can do to at least have a better shot at it? Or you almost touched on that, or is it a case of literally just leaning into relationship building and waiting for your opportunity?
I think that there are ways of massaging the opportunity to come about, for sure. I think that using platforms like LinkedIn work really well in that space, and I know that it certainly works for me. I think that relationship building is possibly one of the most important things that we can do as Australians in business, because we're Australians. Well, I'm Australian by citizenship, so you've accepted me, so therefore I'm Australian. So I'm going to talk as an Australian. So as an Australian, we like building relationships, and we like having a conversation, and that conversation and that relationship is more important to us. So customer service is vital. If you haven't got your customer service right, be sure you won't have a loyal customer. They won't come back. If you haven't got all of your ducks in a row where you're actually delivering what you say you're going to deliver on time with a friendly smile and, let's go to lunch at the end of it.
Yeah,
it's tricky. Relationship building is important, so don't discount it. And networking is important as well. But I think that, LinkedIn and direct, I actually think there's a little bit of a resurgence that is coming about, and you're probably going to roll your eyeballs, but it's true. Wait for it. Just wait for the eyeballs. In direct mail.
Okay. Look, I'm not as shocked as you'd think about that.
Because how often do you go to your letterbox and you get a letter that's actually addressed to you that's not a bill, or something from your insurance company, or something from your life insurance, or one of those major companies? How often do you get a letter that is about something that might interest you? You don't get them anymore. So when you get one, it's like opening a gift, and then you have to actually decide whether throwing this piece of paper away is going to, whether you're going to do that. You have to tangibly touch this thing. It's a tactile thing. You have to go, right, yeah, great. Right, here's my brochure. Here's my nice Velcro trailers brochure that we look after. I'm going to chuck it in the bin. Right, I don't want this nice trailer that's all shiny and it's built to last. And gosh, no, I don't want that. Chuck it in the bin. You don't do that, because we don't get direct mail so much anymore. So it works. And then if you're doing more touch points than just old traditional methods, and you're intertwining that with digital methods, then that works really well. So if you're using your LinkedIn profile and you're staying in touch with people through email marketing, and you're actually talking to your database, all of those things really, really work. But you're keeping your website updated with new case studies. And actually, case study is one of the most important things that you can do on a B2B basis to prove you've got skin in the game, that you know what you're doing and that you've done this and it worked and the customer was happy. So for us, we know that from our customers' perspectives, case studies are the way that they earn new customers. That's how they win them.
Well, it's still storytelling, isn't it?
Absolutely, but we need to keep that up going. And I actually think there's a bit of a lost art. We've got information overload at the moment, and everything's very technical. You know, Industry 4.0 and climate change, and it's all really important and interesting, but it's not storytelling. It's almost frightening us into what we need to be doing, opposed to let's tell a story about something that worked really well.
Where do you sit with, and this is just a little bit random, it's just tying in with the idea of, I guess, different marketing methods, direct mail. So funny you bring that up. I actually heard someone else mention it as a viable kind of option today. I didn't hear it today, as in today, the time period. Pretty much because of what you touched on. There's no competition. Right. No one's doing it. And I don't know if this would fit at all with the manufacturing sector, but where do you sit with video sales letters?
If the person that you're talking to is going to open your video sales letter and they're the type of person who might trust a link like that, great. But make it part of your marketing mix. Don't make it the one thing that you do.
Yeah.
You've got to touch people a number of different times for them to start to remember your brand. So, your emails, your website, your social media, whatever platform it is that you're choosing for your company, direct mail, anything that goes out in advertising, PR, all of those things are elements that we can control. So we can start to create a niche, and we can start to create a funnel and attract certain types of people using a specific language and process. But and video, absolutely, I think video plays a part in it for sure, but don't make it your only strategy. Don't pin all your hopes on putting a video out on social media and hoping to God that it works, because it won't.
Yeah. There's an interesting kind of narrative just starting to, I guess, bubble up. The idea of automation, and I guess that's, yes, it frees us up and frees time and to focus on other elements of the business or other aspects of the business, but it does take away that human touch. And you've touched on it so far in many different ways, through networking, through customer service. Do you find that people struggle with that balance, or are they even aware of any sort of automation in their marketing at all?
I think the more techie companies, the IT companies, the ones that are dealing in software as a service, they're great at automation. That they'll put their email campaigns out and they'll have lots of little triggers and buttons and things that happen in the back end, and they've got a CMS and everything works, and it's great. And that works really well for them. But I think that specific types of businesses won't use automation because they're frightened of it. They don't understand it. Unless that is simplified. And simplification is something I think that needs to happen from a very broad level across business, from so many perspectives. And we'll talk about that later. But because it's quite hard to get your head around what you've got to do, and which because there's so many options out there as well. So you asking me what tool is the best tool. Well, there's so many out there. There are so many actual platforms that you could choose. I'm not here to review them. I'm here I'm here to tell you potentially that you need to use something like this to make this outcome happen. And which one you choose is up to you. But there's lots of automation opportunities out there. But I think it really needs to be planned. I think that just, being shotgun approach on using that kind of software, number one, you need to understand it, and then it needs to work intrinsically with all of the elements of your plan. So if you're going to bother to do it well and measure it.
Mm-hmm. And personalize it. There are that many, I won't go into that, but a lot of things that I receive, they're just, there's no personalization at all. And I think that's the key. It's just falls, it's just blind to it because it just falls in line with everything else. But I got a question for you, and this wasn't in the pre-chat, but have you got any mentors or at the moment, or have you ever had any mentors?
I've had people that I have respected an awful lot who have helped me get where I've gone. And one of them is a sales trainer. I actually did his marketing for about 6 years, but he helped me really understand the business space, core characteristics. And his name is Peter McEwen. He's one of Australia's leading sales trainers, and his company's called Sales Masters. Now he helped me get my head around how people make decisions, and the fact that our values are so intrinsically important to the outcome and the profit margin, because being thanked and being paid and being remunerated, or in whatever way that is so important to actually having a good culture. And Peter started that thought train. So I'm quite grateful to him. And more recently, I've connected with a number of people from the Advisory Board Centre, which is a Brisbane-based operation, and they have so much kudos in the market. I'm an approved advisor with them and a certified chair, and their CEO, Louise Brokeman, she's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. You could ask her anything, and she would help you. She gives me references and connects me to people. Just a really genuinely lovely person who wants to see me succeed. And through the certified chair course, I actually met a gentleman who's in Brazil. Wow. And he would be in his 70s, I think, and he's sat on so many international boards. And so I will often go to him and ask him a question, and he just comes back immediately, and he's like, "No, you're doing the right thing. The best is yet to come." All this stuff, and he's
that's awesome.
And just puts me on the right path and connects me with people that might be able to open some doorways for me. So that's really exciting. So yeah, there are a few people, just select a few people. And it's important that you have that in your back pocket. You have that bunch of people that you can kind of go, yeah, I don't know the answer to this, but I know someone who does.
There's a lot of power in that, isn't it? That those 3 words, I don't know.
Oh, how can you?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We had a rough itinerary to get through. Let's tackle some of these. Let's scrap that, Angie. I want to talk about your board position. Let's dive straight there. I was going to pivot, but no, let's do that.
Okay. Well, it would have been 2015. I sat on a board for a local peak body, and that was very interesting. Sucked the lifeblood out of me, but it was very interesting to do it. And since then, I've wanted to be part of something bigger. I work on my own. My team are all satellite, and I know that I have so much to give from a strategy point of view, that marketing is great, and I can do marketing until I'm blue in the face, and I can talk about it until I'm blue in the face. Am I going blue yet?
Not quite. We've got time.
But actually, from an overall perspective of looking at business, I'm better there. So being on a board has long been a bit of a dream for me. And so now COVID has offered me the opportunity to do the education that I need to shine. And so I'm now able to apply for board positions. Now I'm applying for them. That doesn't mean that I'm the right fit. There's also an awful lot of other people who are out there, and they want to apply for them as well. So it's a bit of a minefield in terms of trying to choose the right one. But for me, I would be best placed on a small to growing medium-sized manufacturing company, and that's what I'm searching for. instead of going and applying for every board that's out there.
Yeah.
It's not the right fit. So it's a work in progress is my answer to your question.
And how have you seen, I guess, the role of a board member, I guess, evolve and change since you've been in and around that crew, shall we say?
I think that years ago, not so long ago, even still now a little bit, the senior white male has dominated the board space, and it's changing. We see diversification happening all over the place, where females and people who are younger and people who are from different backgrounds and religions and sexual preference, they're all starting to be able to be confident enough, which is probably the only barrier that there was, and that there's more openness and transparency, and allowing people like me, who's a 44-year-old white female, with 23 odd years of experience in the commercial world, so got lots of experience to share, but I'm not a 70-year-old white male. There is space for us. Now, what's happening is that I see that the advisory boards are starting to really take shape. Now, what that means is that there's governance boards, which is quite corporate. So, we're talking, risk compliance and financial awareness and literature, and we're talking about listed companies, ASX listed companies, and shares and shareholders and that kind of thing. And then there's companies that aren't floated and that are, PTY limiteds or trusts, but they still have the desire to grow. Now, they don't know how to do all of those things. So if they put together an advisory board of key people with a chair who can actually run that meeting, then that company has, for 4 to 6 times a year, a think tank of people who can group think, make really good decisions, have a look at financial information, and then use their own experience to help that company to scale up in whatever shape that may look like, but it's not about a purely governance role. It's a more of an advisory, a project advisory role, where there is that connection between the management suite and the advisors, opposed to on a governance board that it's only the chair that talks to the CEO, and then the CEO talks to management. So it's quite separate. Well, it's not separate, but it is at the same time. So there's a little bit more connectivity from an advisory board perspective, and I actually think that that's the place I'll play really well, because I'm a doer. I'm a person that kind of goes, okay, we need to do this, and let's make this happen. So I would be a very good chair, because I can see all the things that need to happen, and then can assign stakeholders to the task, deadlines, and then actually drive the change. And so that's really exciting. And so I know my strengths, but that's what a lot of companies need, is someone to kind of go, right, these are the things that need to happen, and we haven't done this. And right, okay, if we're gonna make our business ready for exit in 5 years, then we're going to need to do X, Y, and Z. We need to have all these financial informations. We need year-on-year profit increases. We need an information memorandum. We need procedures manuals and performance reviews and position descriptions and all the things that someone buying a business requires to fill the shoes of the people that have been there.
Yeah.
But it's about pre-thinking those things and then putting those plans into place. But yeah, so in a kind of roundabout way to answer your question.
It does. I could speak about that for hours. I'm curious as to where you sit with the idea of speed in execution with business. Is speed more important than perhaps making a well-informed decision? And obviously, is there some sort of balance there?
I think rushed decisions are stupid. I think if you rush a decision and you don't look at all of the facts, you're going to come up against problems. That's asking for risk. It's asking for that crisis to appear, and it doesn't need to. You know, you've got to have your risk appetite set. You've got to understand what it is that you're willing to, what's the end of the earth that you're willing to get to before you reach critical mass and go, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think rush decisions are the recipe for disaster. I do think that speed needs to happen in terms of executing things like marketing campaigns, because often that, from my perspective, if you miss the boat on a marketing campaign, or if you don't actually roll it out the way it's meant to in the time frame that it's meant to be rolled out, then often we run seasonally in terms of marketing. It won't matter. You'll have lost your market. So there are certain things that need to happen timely, like doing your books and making sure your BAS is in and you paid your tax and all those things that they need to happen, obviously with some element of speed, but making large decisions on investments and acquire a new business, and whether you're ready to take that next step and buy that large piece of asset, or increase your capital by doing whatever it is that you're going to do. They're big decisions that need proper consideration. Whether you're going to put Tim Tams into the office, so whatever.
How risk adversity, is that something you come up with in your role? And I guess, how do you deal with a business owner that wants your help but perhaps might be a little anxious and worried about what the future may hold?
I think that there's always an element of fear in business, and there is an element of, if you don't take a risk, then you won't grow. But you have to figure out where you stop. So being adverse to risk means that you won't do anything that falls outside of your safe zone. Mm-hmm. You still need to consider that if you want to grow, that you will need to invest. Growth doesn't happen without investment, but you need to plan it carefully. So you need to go, okay, well, what is my baseline? And where do I stop? What's it going to take to get to the point where I'm happy in my decision to take that risk and to get to the next stage of my growth level? Am I going to go to the bank and ask for an overdraft? What's it going to look like? Is my interest cover? Is it going to cover? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Or at some point, am I going to become insolvent? Mm-hmm. So we need to assess all of those things and go, okay, well, if you want to do this marketing campaign, and you want your salespeople to start penetrating this market, and you want your operations to improve so that you're leaner, and you buy some new plant and equipment, and that means you've got to figure everything out internally in your operations. Those are big asks. Those are big decisions, and I just think it requires really, really good planning, and to consider all of the possible risks that may happen, and that's your risk tolerance. So how could it go up and down? What could go wrong? What could go right?
Yeah,
and have that worked out before you start throwing money around or making stupid quick decisions. So that's the thing again. So.
Angie, what would you class as your biggest win so far?
Okay, so around 2011, the Brisbane floods hit. And I had a whole bunch of small, very general customers I was helping them from lots of different levels. So it was quite general marketing that I was offering. And then the water decided to infiltrate all of their offices, and everybody went, marketing? Gosh, no, we won't do that. And they all recoiled, a little bit like a tsunami's wave. They went... So everyone, no, we don't need marketing. It's a luxury, obviously, clearly.
People will find us, surely. But anyway.
I'm not sure I agree with them, but anyway. So I had to chase the money. And so what I did was I contacted the Marinara Regional Council, because the APLNG pipeline was being built out in Roma. So industry was booming out that way. So I chased them and went out that way and actually diversified my business. So I did a roadshow with the Marinara Regional Council and ran a marketing workshop. I got 10 customers in one night. A number of them were more industrial types of companies, and I found that I really enjoyed working with them. I actually really like working with regional Australians. I find them really real and salt of the earth kind of characters. They don't bullshit, and they're straight to the point. You know? Quite enjoy working with that kind of caliber of character, I suppose. Yeah, so that was a really big pivoting point for me, because it then allowed me to see where my strengths were, and that manufacturing, distribution and industry and regional Australia were actually really big targets for me. And I haven't changed that since. And now I'm known for working in manufacturing. I work with a foundry, a lockout tagout company, a jetty manufacturing company. What are we looking at here? We've got a trailer manufacturing company, just to give another plug to Belco.
Get there, Belco, yes.
and like a company that makes e-juice. So Vape Revolution, and all of these people are just trying to create a place in the market. And some of them are tiny, and some of them are really big. Some of them hire 50 to 100 staff, and some of them have got one. But the theories around what it is that we're doing to grow their business are really quite consistent.
Wow. I would love to kind of see that blueprint all kind of laid out, but I guess that's why people pay you, right?
I'll send you my quote.
Yeah, fantastic. I got a few more to get through. I'm trying to pick my favorite. Let's do the flip side then, Angie. I get the feeling it might tie into that period as well. What have you found to be the biggest lesson that you've had to learn so far?
Gosh. What did I say? Oh, yes. Biggest lesson. I did write that down. So I think there's a couple of things, because actually there's a couple of answers here that could answer that question. Taking your foot off the gas means you go nowhere. The moment that you take your foot off the gas is the moment that things start to crumble. So you have to consistently keep going. And the other big lesson that I learned, and I didn't learn it soon enough, was that I had to value, and everyone, consultants, whoever you are and whatever you're doing, value yourself. Don't undersell yourself. You have so much to give, and you are enough, and you're adequate. And actually, it's a topic that comes up in my book, Unpacking, is that you're adequate. I was so fed up of feeling inadequate. But that's about self-worth. And getting over yourself and realizing actually that you do have a lot to give, and that has value, and that I'm very different to the next consultant that might come along. Thank God. I don't want to be a clone of anyone else.
Yeah.
So I think it's accepting those things about yourself.
Is that the idea of self-worth and valuing, obviously yourself, but is that worldwide or because I'm just thinking whether that ties into the whole tall poppy syndrome in Australia, and really not feeling comfortable shining, I guess, amongst our peers when we're growing up.
I think that everyone has self-doubts, regardless of which country you're from or what background you've got. I think everybody has, because it's part of our human psyche to feel inferior because someone else is outshining you. Unless you're the loudest, most obnoxious person in the room, and you're a bit of a narcissist and you don't really care what no one else thinks, you're gonna think, gosh, imposter syndrome is gonna creep in and go, I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. I need to do more. I used to work in London for a textile company, and I really liked working for this company. But the lady that I worked with, she was very good at delegating jobs out. And I would be the one that gets there at 7:30 in the morning, and I would leave sometimes when it would be 10 or 11 o'clock at night, because I felt that I had to validate my position to be there. I wasn't getting paid any more for it, and I never got thanked for it.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's because it was, I'm not good enough and I wanted to impress the boss, and that was a fear of judgment thing, which is unpacked in my book called Unpacking. So,
Love that.
so great. But yeah, so it's, you have to get over your own fear of judgment, and it's massive to be able to acknowledge that you have that, and that when you come up against it, there are ways of kind of going, oh well, I don't need to feel that way.
The power of thank you is so underrated. Thank you and acknowledgement. Yeah, ties in the culture, obviously, but huge. One of the most underrated things in business, I reckon. The thank you.
It is. I mean, the culture of a business will only be healthy if the people feel that they're worth it, that they're valued. And that's why when I do the whole unpacking thing, we start with the values and the vision of themselves and then of the company. Because unless they're actually dovetailing like this, you won't feel like you belong. You won't feel like you're thanked or worth it, or that you're contributing, because that's not how we work as humans. We're emotional creatures, and if you haven't got emotional intelligence, it's not going to gel. You're not going to feel like you're in the right spot. So yeah, and that's why you get quite a lot of turnover of staff, is because people don't feel like they belong unless someone helps them to belong. But that's our job as business owners, and it's my job to help the business owners that I help to understand what they could potentially do a little bit differently to make that person in operations or in sales or in accounts feel like they're valid. And that, maybe they're not on the right seat on the bus. Maybe they've got skills that can be used in a different department and they're being underused and undervalued, and they've got no autonomy. They've got no say in what it is that they're doing, and they're just going through the motions and coming to work and hating it because they don't have any input into what it is they're doing, because they assigned themselves to a role which was the job that they went for, but actually they've got so much more. So it's really important as business owners to actually address who's who in your zoo and do a skills matrix once a year and go, right, what is it that you're really good at? Especially when you get new people that come on, and to involve them into that group thinking and the dynamic of where are we going, and make them part of it. I did some work with a company called SalesFix a couple of years ago, and they were fabulous at this. They did this like every day they'd have a little huddle, and they'd make these big decisions. And they were a Salesforce agency, and they'd install Salesforce and customize it, and they were extremely good. They're still going, extremely good at what they do. But the culture in their company is so strong. And I would love everybody else to have a culture like that in their company, because people want to work there. They line up to work there.
Wow. That's the dream, right?
Yeah, right.
I've got here's a fun one. I'll ask you the question and you can ask me the question, right? What's your favorite book, Angie?
My favorite book. I've got a couple of favorite books. So I actually quite like Who Moved My Cheese. I think that's quite a good look through. It's a really short one, but it's a one about growth mindset, and about the fact that our goals change and we're chasing this thing that's intangible and moves all the time, but that we can be happy with what we have, even if we don't get our little bit of cheese all the time. And the other one is The Surfer, the CEO. What did I call it? It's the Saint, the Surfer, and the CEO by Robin Sharma. And I really liked that book because it was about how we change and the different elements of who we are as a person, and that change is okay. And I just enjoyed that one. It was a really good book, so get that one.
Yeah, nice.
I like my own book too.
I was going to say, that's what now you asked me what my favorite book is.
What's your favorite book?
Oh, my favorite, funny you should ask. My favorite book at the moment is it's a book called Unpacking by Angie Hammond. Yeah. We'll get a couple more in before the end of it. Don't worry about that. Here's a good one. This is one of my favorite questions. I have no idea where I bloody heard it from. It might have been Tim Ferriss, probably wasn't. What's one thing you wish you knew before starting your business that you know now?
I think it kind of goes back to that whole valuing yourself thing. I genuinely wish before I started, and I started out, it's been, oh gosh, how long has it been now? 15 years that I've been doing this business. And I started out going to Leeds Club, which is a networking breakfast. And that really helped to transform what I was doing. But I would help people so much for free. I give away so much of my IP, and I charge next to nothing when I actually did the work. And lots of people liked me because, of course, I was doing lots of work for them for no money. But actually, I really wished I had valued myself more in those early days. It gave me a really what to do. But yeah, I think that's really important to understand when you first start in something. You are worth something, and if you're not worth something, why are you doing it?
Yeah, I love that. Are you you got any more plans for any more Ironman or woman competitions coming up?
Well, it's tricky because they kind of keep cancelling them. I did have Port Macquarie. I did have Port Macquarie booked, and then I actually ended up hurting my leg. But I've got the Noosa try, which is in October, and that's the only one I've actually booked. I'm actually my kids are doing the Caloundra try at the weekend, and so is my husband, and I'm volunteering because our triathlon club needs some help. So I'm only just recovering from a leg injury, so I'm going to go do some volunteering instead. So.
Wow, yeah, fair enough. It's nothing serious. What did you do to your leg?
Oh, I run on my toes and I shouldn't, and I just keep tearing my calves.
So. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Sounds painful. Is there anything that we've missed tonight that you want to shine a spotlight on?
I think if we can get everyone used to the idea that advisory boards exist and that they are extremely helpful in helping to scale a business, even if it's only for a short period of time, take the advantage, because there are so many experts out there lining up to help you. And we've got years of experience, and we all have great understanding of how to group think and make good decisions, and a good understanding of how a business should run. So use that. There's mentoring that you can get access to. There are lots of grants out there that you can also get access to. So use the things that are in front of you. And if you don't know where they are, then you contact someone like myself. There's lots of people like me out there, but you can contact me. I'll give you my details. But absolutely, use people like me to your advantage, because once you do, you'll open a doorway and you won't look back.
If there was business owners that were curious about, I guess, where to start, how to go and find an advisory board, where do they start that journey?
So I would first of all go to the advisoryboardcentre.com.au. I think it's advisoryboardcentre.com.au, and have a look. There's stuff in there for people who want to set up boards. There's also a guy on the Sunshine Coast called Ivan Castle. He has something called the Alternative Board, and that's a project-based kind of board. And he's actually really, really smart, and he would be able to point you in the right direction in terms of different types of boards that aren't corporate governance. Yeah, there's a few of them out there.
Angie, if there was one thing, I'll give you three, but I don't know. I didn't know whether to say one or three then, to be honest. But if there was one thing that people could implement now to make the biggest change, what would your suggestion be?
Be open to change. Things don't change unless you're open to it. And seeking advice isn't suggesting that it's not working or that you're failing. Actually, it just means that you're smart and that you don't know all the answers, because no one does. So I think right now in this market, hold firm. Don't increase your prices right now. It's not the best time to be increasing prices, but just stay firm and be consistent. Customer service is massive. It means a lot. People buy from people that they like, and they continue to buy from people that they like because of the service that they provide. But yeah, I think customer service and staying firm and being open to change. So that's three.
That's three. That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, look, outside of, I won't start it that way. Ladies and gentlemen, go out and grab yourself a copy of Unpacking by Angie Hammond. And after they've read your book, Angie, if they do want to get in contact with you to help them with their business, where can people find you?
So I've got a website which is about me, because I've got one.
That's perfect.
So there's angiehammond.com.au, and the one for marketing is garnish.com.au. The one for the book is unpacking.com.au. So it's not really that difficult. But yeah, it's I'd be delighted to have a chat with anyone and see if I can help you to scale your business up.
That's unreal. Great places to finish it tonight. Ladies and gents, get in touch with Angie. I want to thank you again, Angie, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've had a ball. So, ladies and gents, go out and grab the book, Unpacking. You can find her on angiehammond.com.au, garnish.com.au. Did I get that one right?
Yeah.
Perfect. And unpacking.com.au.
Very good. Good memory.
I got there. No worries.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's been a blast. I've had such a good time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us, and I hope to catch up with you again. Ladies and gents, enjoy the rest of your evening. Ciao for now.